No, no buzz. I just use book club. Today we're talking The Memory Monster by Yishai. I did not learn how to pronounce this man's name. Yishai Sarid, something along those lines. A novel about a burnout academic who happened to fall into the career of a Holocaust t- tour guide, basically. I know I do not have the book. I do not have the book. I gave it back to the friend who lent it to me over a month ago when I read it. It's a complicated thing. I think it's an interesting thing in many ways. It is also a book that is particularly hard to read during an ongoing genocide. So the sort of outline of the book is it is written as a long letter to the director of Yad Vashem, I want to say, the real Israeli institution that is sort of the Holocaust Remembrance institution in the Israeli government. It's written to the director from a person who has been a tour guide for Holocaust sites in Poland primarily. That I think is really good in many ways, and also kind of ultimately falls in the realm of left-wing Zionism, which is a thing it's a book that was published in English in 2020. I believe it was initially published in Hebrew in 2017. It got some sort of an amount of recognition, and he Sarid seems to be like a semi-prominent Israeli author who is like a practicing lawyer, I believe, in Israel, and I feel like I would have had the same feelings about this book prior to the current genocide, but who knows? And I bring that up because one of the sort of most famous lines, I've done a little digging on this book, read a couple of reviews of when it came out in English, and almost all of them specifically reference a line that was also striking to me. I can see why you would reference this if you were reviewing the book, where on one of the tours that the protagonist is giving, the sort of POV character, the letter writer that we are following throughout, mentions seeing overhearing some Israeli students wrapped in flags who have just been singing the Israeli national anthem and other sort of nationalist songs. Hearing one of them whisper something along the lines of, "We should do this to the Arabs." So this book is deeply, I think, engaged in the question of Israeli nationalism and the effects of sort of Holocaust education, specifically around its fetishization, and I think it is also really smartly presented from the letter writer, the narrator of the book. Is somebody who sort of falls into Holocaust education by way of it being a sort of viable career path that is easy for him as an Israeli citizen to sort of advance his career when he is sort of floundering around, not really being completely clear on what his career path would be. And he specifically sort of evinces or is able to follow this career path because he becomes sort of focused on the mechanics of extermination, of the Jewish genocide of the Shoah, um, that sort of allows him to both deeply understand but also fundamentally abstract what a genocide looks like. Said that word a couple times, huh? Um, that's sort of why he becomes like a sort of initially a poster boy for this organization, and then a person who is writing a novella length apology and an attempt to sort of reintegrate himself within it after a delightful fucking climactic sequence in which Israel like performs uh, show a show in which they liberate. I can't remember the exact specifics. It sort of becomes Auschwitz, but like there's a bunch of logistics around what like camp specifically they're going to liberate based on like where they can land their planes and perform a supposed, uh, you know, like uh, colonial, whatever. That's not what that's not what it says. That's not it. That's not it. Anyway, I think this book is. I could see being very affected by this book, but ultimately, I read through it and felt like left wing Zionism. That it did not even begin to question the basis of statehood. Generally speaking, I don't mean Israeli statehood. I mean like there's not a sense that there is a possibility of life in which states are not central. Being as chill as possible about this. This is what I mean by left wing Zionism, right? Um, the the belief seems to stem from the fact there seems to be a fundamental understanding that you know, as we have heard a million times, right? You know what is the refrain? Israel has a right to defend itself. Um, this conflation of the again, generally liberal assumption that there are such things as rights uh, that are conveyed by states that are bound up in the question of law, which is fundamentally it is an extension of the question of whether or not our lives are governed by a state apparatus. This is one of those times where I do regret that one of the fundamental pillars of this project is that if I finish a book, I have to talk about it. Also, one of the times I regret when I finish a book on, I think the thumbnail for this was taken on like May 30th, and I'm recording this on July 2nd, and I gave the book back like the day after. So I have bound myself in a very specific series of false contracts that are true insofar as this is a Just Bees book club. Just for bees. And I guess what I'm saying here is fundamentally. This book has lingered with me. I think there's a lot it does that pushes a sense of what Israel means in a direction that I don't hate. I think it engages very specifically with the way that sort of Holocaust education is broken. I also think it doesn't push very hard, or as hard as I would like, much less as hard as I would want to go. I think it also gains literary sort of points for that, right? It becomes one of, the New York Times 100 best books of 2020 because it deals in ambivalence in a way that I think is recognizable as a thing that good literature does, but is not a thing that good writing does or good politics does. I think it is a genre novel. And I say that disparagingly, which I almost never do. And the genre is literary fiction, of course. Thanks for not watching. Thanks for not watching.